Well, as I learned last night, there are even more telltale signs in Arctic and Antarctic ice regarding climate change than many of us even could dream of imagining. We'll talk about that today. Dan Kelly will join me, Iowa State Representative from Newton. Nikisha Phillips, of course, this being Thursday, we'll talk with Des Moines' favorite pregnant woman. She's doing a great job at keeping us updated on how that journey is going. She's working with a doula and a midwife. We'll hear from her today as well. And first, though, Matt Sinovic with Progress Iowa joins us. We'll talk about ALEC and also about some of the controversy, the discussion going on between his group and those on the right regarding the anti-bullying conference.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
Hello, Mid-American Energy.
I'm very concerned that you want to bill me an extra $5,000 to build a nuclear reactor. Do you know we're in the middle of a recession?
Oh, we were hoping you wouldn't hear about that until after the legislature had taken action.
Why not let your shareholders pick up the tab?
Oh, way too risky for our shareholders. We need you, our loyal customers, to pay for it.
Wait, let me see if I understand this. Mid-American wants to build a nuclear power plant in 10 or 20 years, and they want me to pay for it now?
That's right.
Well, I'll just take my business elsewhere.
Sorry, we're a monopoly. What we say goes.
I've heard nuclear power is more expensive than other sources.
Yes it is.
And I've heard there's no plan for how to dispose of nuclear waste.
We're looking at shooting it into the sun.
Well, I'm not going to sit back and let you make bad decisions with my money.
We're betting you will.
Stop Mid-American's power grab. Call your legislators today. 281-3371. 281-3371.
Paid for by Physicians for Social Responsibility.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to the Fallon Forum, broadcasting live from the cultural and culinary crossroads of America. Is that right? That would be downtown Des Moines. You knew that, though, right? Sure you did. Hey, we're in the Skywalk here. If you're walking, wave by. I will ignore you, because if I don't ignore you, I'll get this. If I don't ignore you, I'll get distracted, and my guests won't know what's going on. And my guest, I'm excited to have Matt Sinovic on the show with me today. Matt is with Progress Iowa.
Thanks, Ed.
He was in the paper this morning causing mischief, picking on old Chuck Hurley.
Well, I don't think it was causing mischief.
Were you bullying Chuck Hurley?
Absolutely not.
All right. Well, anyways, this is the little dust-up over the discussion about the anti-bullying conference. You've got Governor Branstad on your side, most of the Iowa Legislative Assembly, but a handful of people don't like this bullying conference. They feel it is threatening to their way of life, to their Christian faith. I mean, what do you say? What do you say to that? Yeah, you were at the conference,
right?
Which sounds like it was a pretty powerful event.
It was a very good event, and this is the 8th year that they've held the Governor's Conference on LGBTQ youth. And one of the what I thought was one of the most telling stories was from the prince, the Indian prince, who was the keynote speaker.
Yes,
and he's
the only out gay royalty in the world.
Exactly. Yes, and he was talking about
except maybe Elton John.
Right.
Well, all right.
But he was talking about his experience growing up in India and how he wishes that there was an organization like Iowa Safe Schools who puts on this conference every year, and they do a great job. He wishes that there was an organization like that and an event like this, because what it really does is allow students or allies of lesbian or gay youth to come from all over the state to Des Moines to learn about issues they're facing, particularly bullying issues, and realize that they're not alone. So, I was happy to and excited to be part of that effort and part of that conference with our presentation yesterday.
So what do you say to folks like Chuck Hurley with the Iowa Family Leader, who says, because kids' bodies and minds and souls, in our view, are at stake, we need to engage this very strongly, who feel that this is a threat to, they feel it's part of the gay agenda. How do you respond to people who feel that there is a gay agenda?
Well, they're entitled to their beliefs. I mean, they're entitled to believe whatever they want to believe, and we all are. But I don't believe that they're entitled to force their beliefs on anyone else, and I don't think that it's appropriate for people who take on a public leadership role, such as Bob Vanderplatz, Chuck Hurley, some radio hosts, some local radio hosts. I don't think,
but not this radio.
Right, absolutely
okay,
not.
good.
Right, I don't think it's appropriate for them to use their public audience to bully or to create an environment where bullying is more likely to happen. And I think that, and we think that's what's happening.
Well, the other criticism, of course, is that this event has become partisan. That, I mean, even though Governor Branstad is officially it's the governor's anti-bullying conference, even though his name's on it in a big way, and he has insisted on keeping his name on it despite pressure from within his own party, there's still some now who are criticizing it as being somewhat partisan, critical of those in the Republican Party that are anti-gay.
I disagree. I don't think it's if you were there at the conference listening to the presentations or hearing the discussions, it's not a partisan. Bullying and making sure that everyone feels included should not be a partisan issue. Unfortunately, there are those on the far right who are trying to make it that way. But they've been doing this for several years now.
Now, a presentation.
This is nothing new.
Oh, this is true. Yeah. Now, a presentation you gave yesterday at the conference was one of the items singled out for criticism by representatives of the Iowa Family Leader. Now, is that the same presentation that's on your website?
Yes, it is.
Well, let's take a look at that. Let's go to a little bit of that presentation and talk us through it.
Yeah, well, we started off, the whole point of this presentation, which was called Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Right Wing, was, and they took issue with the name of it, but it was meant to be rhetorical, as in no one really should
Jan
be.
Michelson, I don't think the mark of the beast will be a 666. I think it will be a rainbow.
Right.
So he's taking a shot at the Irish and leprechauns and pots of gold?
I don't think
or Jesse Jackson, maybe, the Rainbow Coalition?
I don't think that's what he meant.
Okay.
Yeah. He was targeting a rainbow flag, which is a symbol of the Pride movement, and it's a symbol of pride and acceptance for the LGBT community. So then we went through several quotes. You can keep moving along, but this is some background about
This is who?
About that's me. On the
that's
left.
you?
Yeah.
Which
so
one?
This is, I'm on the left.
The guy with the yellow suit on?
Yeah, exactly.
Look at you.
So
Yeah, there it says. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I talked about how I was raised Catholic, attended Catholic schools, and we thankfully learned about social justice and treating everyone with respect and love. So, I also talked a little bit about our organization, Progress Iowa, that we're a multi-issue progressive advocacy organization that
Yeah.
just celebrated our first.
I mean,
birthday.
your agenda is quite broad.
It
I mean,
is,
the next
yeah.
thing we're going to talk about is ALEC.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and you work on environmental issues as well.
Yes.
Issues of
All across the board.
Okay, all right.
Working class, middle class issues, environmental issues, obviously social or cultural issues.
bullying. Now some of the folks of the Iowa Family Leader accuse this conference of being a force for bullying against them.
Sure, and they can make that claim, but the standard definition for bullying is that it's using superior strength or influence to intimidate.
And they would
So-
argue that this conference shows superior strength.
I mean, the conference exists to allow students and friends and parents of students and teachers who are feeling bullied to learn how to fight back.
Right.
So it's sort of it's ridiculous for them to make.
And what are these trend lines we're looking at here, Matt?
This is a recent poll that shows the flip in recent years.
Do you think it should be
about-
legal or illegal for gay and lesbian couples to marry?
Exactly. And so now a majority of Americans think it should be legal, whereas in 2004, a majority thought it should be illegal.
And now, it was interesting to me to go back to that slide for a second, if we can. We can't. Okay. Well, what
Okay.
was interesting to me was that after 2004, the support for marriage equality took a dip.
Yes.
So after Massachusetts enacted marriage equality, popularity across the country went down. Was that because people just don't like Massachusetts, or because the Red Sox went on to win the World Series? I don't know.
I don't know, but I do
Yeah,
know.
I credit
I
credit the gay marriage initiative in Massachusetts with the reason the Red Sox won the World Series that year.
Well,
That's my theory.
You might be right. I do think, though, that in Iowa, since we've had the freedom to marry for 4 years now, folks have realized that it's not the end of the world. Yeah. It's not some disastrous policy. All that happened was that gay people were allowed to get married,
Right.
and no one else was really impacted. No one else's rights were taken away. Yeah, you can
Let's move
this.
beyond the slides at this point. I at some point we're going to have to talk about the definition of progressive and liberal,
Absolutely,
because
yeah.
I have a totally different definition than what you just put up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
we'll talk about that some other time.
Okay.
Let's talk about a group that is definitely not progressive or liberal, ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council. This is something that all legislators automatically were made members of years ago, until it became really clear that ALEC had a very, very partisan agenda. Unlike their counterpart, the National Council of State Legislatures, that group has a track record of being far less partisan. But ALEC, they've taken a lot of heat, including from your group.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And ALEC, Iowans should know that ALEC is not. It sounds like a very friendly organization, the American Legislative Exchange Council.
Who couldn't like a guy named ALEC, you know?
Exactly, right. But it is anything but. It allows legislators and corporate lobbyists to vote behind closed doors. So these are not public meetings. These are privately held meetings.
When you say vote, you don't mean legislative chambers. You mean...
I mean our legislators who are members of ALEC
Right.
go to these meetings and vote with corporate lobbyists on what bills that
They go to
should-
ALEC.
on what they go to ALEC meetings.
ALEC conferences.
ALEC
Okay.
conferences,
Right, sure.
and
Okay.
they vote on bills and decide whether they should push those bills in the state legislature. So a lobbyist from any number of,
couldn't you argue that's democratic? At least those who decide to be members get to decide through the entire body what measures get supported?
in the sense that they're having a vote, I guess, but our definition of the democratic process involves the people who these legislators actually represent. So, which it completely cuts us out of the process. So if these corporate lobbyists don't think a bill should be pushed in the state, then it's not. They have a vote. As far as what?
Okay, so it isn't just the legislative members of ALEC who vote; it's the lobbyists
Exactly,
as well.
right? They both.
And how is
they
that
both
weighted?
vote.
I mean, how do you get to be a? Did you get to be a voting lobbyist based on how much you contribute to ALEC?
That's a little bit.
They don't have to. They
secretive.
don't have to
They
report that.
They don't
do
have
they?
to show any of that.
Okay.
But we think that yes, it's the best guess is that it's based on the funding for the organization. Yeah.
Okay. And so is it very possible that lobbyists outnumber legislators when it comes to voting for these? But again, I mean,
it's all very secretive.
Yeah,
so
it sounds like there's not really a lot of difference between the type of lobbyists that participate and the type of legislator. I mean, it's primarily Republican lawmakers. I mean, Democrats across the country have pretty much bailed ship on this one.
Most, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are, we don't believe there are any Democratic members of the Iowa legislature in ALEC anymore.
Well, and it wasn't that long ago that a Democratic member of the Iowa House was the national president.
That's right. Yeah.
Dolores Mertz.
Dolores Mertz was.
Who was a lot of fun and great to dance with on St. Patrick's Day in the well in front of the well in the Iowa House, but was horrible on issues. I'm sorry, Dolores, you were horrible on issues. Okay, hog confinements, you name it. I mean, she was probably a perfect poster child for ALEC to say, "Hey, look, we got Democrats.
Right.
We made one a president."
And it's funny you mentioned that because in comparison to NCSL, the National Conference on State Legislatures, NCSL rotates its leadership, Republican, Democrat, every year. In the 33 years that ALEC has had national leadership, 28 years, the national leader has been a Republican. Only 5 years has it been a Democrat. And one of those was, as you said, right here from our state. So.
Yeah. And since retired, so.
Right.
And I think Brian Quirk, the other Democratic lawmaker from.
He was the last one, and we got him out last year.
Yeah.
We helped encourage him to get out of ALEC.
Did you? Well, good for you. All right. Well, yeah. Again, ALEC was very much in the limelight during the Occupy movement, and in certain months after that, it's kind of faded from a lot of the primary conversations we hear in the media. So what is going on? Is there still a lot of pressure? And I mean, what really can you do? It's a private organization. What can you do to ALEC?
Well, we can't. The focus isn't. It's about ALEC, but we think it really should be. The focus should be on our legislators, because they have the power to declare publicly whether they're a member or not. They have the power to decide whether to release information about their communication with ALEC. Unfortunately, the Iowa legislature is not subject to Freedom of Information requests. They can decide whether to release information or not. So we think that people should put the pressure on their elected leaders and ask them whether they're a member. If they're not, will they publicly denounce ALEC? If they are, will they disclose all of their dealings with the organization and so on? I
think the problem is it's an organization that has a very, very specific agenda, very friendly to a handful of very powerful, well-funded corporate interests that is masquerading as a Fox, in terms of Fox language, a fair and balanced legislative agency that is trying to provide information, and it's not at all. It's not. I mean, I never did call ALEC when I was a legislator. If I had a question, an issue, something I needed research on, I'd call NCSL. They just had a better reputation, and this was before ALEC became even more widely exposed than they are. It just, but you expect. My impression is that if a lawmaker like me, or if you were a lawmaker and you wanted, some help researching the best approach to dealing with, say, water quality issues, you probably weren't going to get very far with ALEC. They're probably not going to give you the kind of help that you need.
Right. They're definitely not going to give you both sides or all sides of any issue. They're going to give you their side and the side of whatever the corporate lobbyist thinks. So,
all right. Well, hey, Matt Sinovic has been our guest here on the first segment of the Fallon Forum. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We've been talking about ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, and the continued efforts to put some heat on that organization to come clean as to how it is funded and what its real agenda is in working with state legislators across the country. We've also been talking about the anti-bullying conference. Talked a little bit about how exciting it was for Iowa to receive the gay crowned prince of India, the only openly gay member of royalty other than Elton John. Yeah, baby. Okay, we're going to go to a break, and as we do, we'll have Elton John playing in the background. I want to thank the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club. I want to thank Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility, and I want to thank Gateway Marketing Cafe for sponsoring this particular segment of our show. Gateway is at 20th and Woodland. heck of a place for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Also, a wonderful grocery store with lots of local products. Folks, check them out. That's Gateway Marketing Cafe at 20th and Woodland. And Elton John, you and those crocodiles, y'all rock.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of WebcastOneLive.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait, howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going, man.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back, folks. That is Mr. Baber's Neighbors and their tune Ode to Jones, and we are back to our conversation on the Fallon Forum. I want to thank Community CPA and Associates for sponsoring this segment of our program, and I want to welcome Dan Kelly to the studio. Dan, you are amazing.
Well, thank you, Ed. I'm glad you noticed.
I know that. You're amazing and you're very modest.
Oh, well, thank you.
Oh gosh, you're always throwing me for a loop. That's good. All right. I mean, you're so. I mean, this. I know how busy it gets this time of the year.
Yes, very busy
at the State House. It is just crazy.
It is.
And so maybe you're just delighted. Maybe you're just escaping, just delighted to get away from it for a bit. But I'm just surprised you can pull it off with all the pressures that come with grinding through the last few weeks of session.
Well, it's an honor to serve, and you just burn up all your energy, leave it on the field. That's the way I like to live.
A sports metaphor.
Yeah, imagine that. Just leave it on the field.
Yeah.
There's no time like before sign and die to get stuff done.
Speaking of sports metaphors, I was just speaking of sports. Red Sox 2 wins over the Yankees in Yankee Stadium.
I know, that's amazing.
How cool is that?
We're headed off in the right direction to get this season going.
Well, actually, it isn't unusual for the Red Sox to start the season on the right foot, but taking 2 in Yankees home country, that's pretty good.
Significant.
All right, but much more important than the Yankees or even the intensity of the Iowa legislative session is the growing intensity of the climate change crisis.
Yes.
You've got a bill I want to talk about, Dan, but first, we were both at a presentation last night, a very powerful presentation by James Baylog. James Baylog is a photographer. He integrates art and science in a way that I find very, very powerful, and he has a film called Chasing Ice, which will be available for viewing this coming Saturday and Sunday. Two showings at Drake University.
Yes, I'm planning to go to the Sunday show.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah,
well, I mean, his presentation I thought was extremely powerful. What did you think?
I thought he was a great speaker. He delivered a message on climate change that was effective, and I looked around the room several times, and people were really captivated by the photography that he had on display last night.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's so much science involved in this discussion, and the climate change discussion is being held in the political arena. So how does science enter into the political arena in an effective manner?
Ideally, science influences a lot of what comes out in terms of good policy.
But unfortunately, what's happening is the politics are overplaying the science, and the science is being manipulated one way or the other, unfortunately. And I think that his take on it last night was to present a bit of an artistic view of what's happening to the polar ice caps, the glaciers, and so forth. And that was an angle I had not seen or heard of before, and I was taken by it, and I think most in the audience were really affected by this, to actually see the glaciers melting.
Yeah, I mean, he puts these cameras are in place for years at a time, and they document the demise of these these glaciers that have been around for incredible amounts of time.
Right.
And they're gone. There's never been anything like this.
Right.
In I don't know how many, the last hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah. It's unprecedented.
And the enormous size of these glaciers and how they're melting away to nothing. They're melting away to more water in the ocean and rising sea levels.
And you said the science is being manipulated, but
I believe
it's really only being manipulated by one side.
Well,
if anything, the scientists have been conservative. What they've been predicting has been coming true much quicker.
The science is being manipulated by the deniers.
Yes, exactly, and or ignored, or they're cherry picking certain facts that they want to emphasize in order to distract people from the truth, because there is an element of our society that again is getting rich on fossil fuel, the fossil fuel economy, and they don't want to change.
And my take on it is that the climate deniers are really being manipulated by the vested interests that want to keep things the way they've always been: the oil industry, the coal industry, and the dirty fuel, dirty energy.
Well, if you look at the extent to which David and Charles Koch, again the very, very powerful and wealthy oil barons, if you look at the extent to which they fund organizations committed to proving, and I put proving in quotes, proving that climate change is not happening, they're really fighting hard, and they're willing to spend a lot of money to preserve what they have, which is unfortunate, because to preserve what they have, they're willing to destroy a lot of things, including possibly our planet.
Well, and it becomes relevant at the most basic levels. I'm on a subcommittee for a bill right now that was in the Environmental Protection Committee. It's now been moved to Ways and Means, that would benefit the petroleum producers. It would benefit the biofuels industry. I've communicated quite a bit with REG Newton, which is a biodiesel producer in my district, and they want to see this bill move forward, and we can get everybody on the same page and get the bill moving forward, but then the petroleum producers step in and things become far more complex. So, as you know, a lot of these bills are not about getting Democrats and Republicans on the same page. It's about getting all the vested interests on the same page.
Meaning in many cases, the corporate lobbyists.
Yes, yeah.
Appeasing them, throwing them a bone.
Well, and the industries that they represent, who employ people in our districts. So
what are you're working on other legislation relevant to this as well?
Yeah. We have extreme weather all over the world. Yeah. And one of the extreme weather conditions that Iowans are most affected by is tornadoes. And many communities have tornado sirens, which alert those who are outside that the storm is coming and that they need to get themselves, their property, their children, their pets, and so forth to shelter. There are lots of rural communities in Iowa, and I don't know how many, but I'm working on getting the statistics on this. A lot of rural communities that simply do not have tornado sirens. And this puts those citizens at risk for tornadoes. They need the opportunity to get to shelter. We can't stop the tornado, but we can get folks to safety, and we can protect property to a certain extent. Go ahead.
Well, let me ask you a quick question too, but first I meant to throw out the phone number, 244-0077, folks, if you'd like to talk with State Representative Dan Kelly and myself. 244-0077. We're talking climate and the related issue of weather.
Right.
Okay, so
what my bill would do is mandate that every community in Iowa have a siren system in place by July 1st of 2018. But I'm not just requiring this. I'm also providing through the bill a grant program that would be administered through the Department of Homeland Security, which would allow these communities to apply for state grants to put their siren systems in place and also to establish the operation and the rules and as to how that's going to work. There's a community near Marshalltown in Marshall County called Melbourne.
Sure.
And Melbourne is not in my district. However, there was an email sent out to all House members by a citizen in Melbourne just explaining her frustration as to living in a community without tornado sirens. And she had approached her city council and mayor about installing these. There was another city that had agreed to donate their old siren system to Melbourne, and their city council denied it, didn't want the siren system, didn't want to mess with it. And she was told by a council member that sirens don't do anything. The storm's coming anyway. Well, that's not the point.
Okay,
the point is to get people to safety.
So the state the proposal is for the state to override local authority on this and to require the siren to be installed.
It does institute a mandate. However, it also provides a grant program so that we're not,
does it cover 100% of the cost of installing the siren?
There is potential for that. Each grant would be handled in a case-by-case basis.
There's some again who would say that, well, that's a denial of local control.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I think when we're talking about the safety and preserving lives, I think that should be put on the table.
Now we have a different problem here in Des Moines, Dan.
Yeah.
We have ample sirens, but they go off way too often. They go off if the wind hits 70 miles an hour.
Right.
And I was biking. Actually, last year was a really mild year for tornadoes. Overall, severe weather and tornadoes are on the rise, and that's a factor of climate change. The year before was pretty bad, and I was biking one day through Prospect Park, fairly vacant open stretch,
right.
And I was hit by a pretty hard wind. And I think it was at least 50 miles an hour. Maybe it was up to 70. I mean, I really had to hang on to my bike.
Right.
But that was all. There was no tornado. There was nothing close to the kind of property damaging winds that you can get, and the sirens were going off.
Sure.
And I think, and that happens a lot. And so people stop taking it seriously when they go off for a mere 70 mile an hour wind.
Well, certainly, but with my bill, I'm not really getting into how those sirens are operated. I think I don't want to micromanage it. I just want to make sure that those safety precautions are in place.
Right. Well, I hear you. Yeah, and maybe that's more of a conversation for local authorities. I don't know quite who makes the decision on how often to operate those sirens.
Well, perhaps the sirens were being tested. I mean,
No, they weren't.
no,
They made it clear they're starting to operate. They're starting to sound them far more often.
Sure.
For much less dramatic weather than a tornado.
Yeah.
And it's causing people to say, "Oh, big deal, another tornado siren."
Yeah.
So a different problem.
Different problem.
So is your bill going to make it through the system?
Not this session. It didn't pass through the funnels this year. However,
That's a good reference. A tornado bill going through the funnel.
I didn't catch that. That one.
That's why you need me.
That one blew right by me. That one blew right by me.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan Kelly, you're one twisted individual.
Thanks for noticing, Ed.
All right, we'll stop.
That's my same response to your initial comment.
Maddie, why do men like bad puns? What is it?
Ed, we should tell people that when we ran into each other last night at that the event at Drake, we both responded the same way.
Right.
What'd we say?
How'd you get in?
They'll let anybody in here.
They'll
tonight.
let anybody in.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, speaking of letting anybody in, I will let anybody onto this program, even people who are not inclined to engage in bad puns, even people who claim lineage from Elvis Presley. Frank from Des Moines, what the heck's on your mind today?
And I'm on the other side of it. I'll talk to anybody.
And check out Dan's tie, by the way.
Frank, I didn't know you were calling, but I wore one of my Elvis ties today.
Well, cool.
This is the Burn in Love tie. It's part of a 20 tie collection. I own every tie in the collection.
You own
and I'm
20 Elvis ties?
Yeah, well, I own a few more than that. But this is part of the number one hits collection, which I've had since I was in college. And I'm trying to wear every tie in the collection at least once during the session. This is Burn in Love Day.
You're a tie geek.
I am a bit. But I didn't know Frank was calling.
Well, Frank, thanks for the call. Appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Well, did it escape your guys' notice this year? We had the coldest spring day we've had in Iowa since 1951. First day of spring.
March was one out of every 5 marches is like the march we just got through.
Dan,
it's not that unusual.
Dan, here's the problem with your side. Okay,
Frank.
Your side keeps evolving. Your side keeps changing the goalposts and changing the standards because you mentioned a term that climate change started to be. Then it moved to, first global warming. It started out global warming. Then it metamorphosed into climate change, and now you've metamorphosed again into extreme weather or weather extreme supported by climate change. So you guys are the ones that keep moving the goalpost, and whenever you find exculpatory evidence that goes against your case, you guys are the ones that trying to. There was an email scandal several years ago
that turned out not to be a scandal at all, but an overblown thing.
Trying to hide evidence.
No, they know that they 8 or 9 of the 10 allegations that were made proved to be false. You're talking about the so-called ClimateGate thing?
Yeah, the climate.
Yeah, that was an absolute travesty of truth and justice. It was.
And furthermore, I remember a deal here not too many years ago in the mid '90s where they were trying to outlaw some car refrigerant in our country, R12, R34. I can't remember which, whatever we got now. And there was a great alarm that went up over that we've got to get rid of this. This stuff is terrible. And they made it illegal. And that stuff started selling on the black market for $25, $35 for a can of it.
Okay, well, Frank, I mean, we can talk about
small... No, but here's the point I'm trying to make here, Ed, about this. DuPont was behind that. Their patent was running out on that. It's follow the money. DuPont's patent was running out on the old stuff, so they scared everybody into thinking you've got to get rid of it.
Frank, this is a sidebar to the conversation. The conversation is about climate change, which is happening, which is unprecedented, which is related to human activity. There's no doubt about that anymore. I don't know whether you were at the presentation last night by James Baylog.
Yeah, I was pulling an all-nighter.
I don't get that part, but anyway.
All-nighter guard duty.
Oh, you were working?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if you look and you don't have to go to his material, it's all over the place. Look at the evidence.
But what do you do with the evidence that says exactly the opposite?
No. The evidence says that we are in a period of warmth that is absolutely unprecedented. The dramatic shift from what was relatively a cool period prior to the Industrial Revolution to where we're at today is historically, climatically planetarily unprecedented.
And what
There's
is that,
no
about
explanation
a quarter
for
of a
it.
degree, half a degree? What exactly is that?
7 or 8 degrees in the Arctic, 4 degrees in some parts of the U.S.
Well, what about the other places on the planet that's getting colder?
No. It all pans. When you average everything out, it comes out to a significant increase in climate.
Well, there's an old saying. It's called "follow the money," and this boondoggle is going to be a $6 trillion boondoggle, and they're going to have control of everything in your life. They're going to have control of every bit of your carbon footprint.
Frank, I don't know whether I'm trying to think of which political accomplishment would be greater: convincing Frank that climate change is happening, or convincing Chuck Hurley that gay marriage is not a bad idea.
I'm going to step you up one. I'm telling you, and I've told you on this show before, it really doesn't make any difference to me anyway if the climate is slightly doing that. But I don't happen to think it's man-made. That's where I part company with you.
Well, thank you for calling, Frank. I'm sorry we part company on that note. I got to run to a break.
All right,
thanks.
Can I respond
to
Frank
yes,
real
of course.
quickly?
Sorry, Dan.
You know, with all due respect, Frank, this isn't about semantics. This isn't about what we call what's happening to the planet. Climate change, I believe, is the term that most accurately assesses the conditions that we're living in. But the boondoggle that you mentioned comes from the money we need to spend to recover from storms, the money that is required to protect the environment and so forth. But the loss in finances, the economic impact is when we turn our backs on renewable fuels, on renewable energy. This is where the opportunity is to provide jobs on the factory floor. It happens in my district every day. More and more companies and entities are turning to wind energy and biodiesel and so forth, and that's creating jobs. If we don't seize the moment to cure some of what ails our planet by focusing on green jobs, we are ignoring the fact that jobs need to be created, and we're ignoring the fact that our environment is headed in the wrong direction.
There's a tremendous opportunity in all this.
Right.
The silver lining is fantastic in this dark cloud.
This is not about a loss of revenue. This is about creating jobs and bringing in good things for the economy.
It's contingent upon saving the planet. And really, when you look at what Baylog has to present on the incredible, unprecedented shifts, the loss of ice in the North Country, in the Antarctic, in the Andes, in Bolivia, and elsewhere. It is impossible to be a thinking person, in my opinion, and come out of there without any conclusion other than, wow, we are really messing things up, and we've got to get our act together.
And that's not even to mention the support we provide to military to protect our oil interests and fighting wars for oil and so forth.
He made that point.
This is it's costing us more to ignore the problem than it is to address it and handle it properly.
Yeah. Well, Dan, I again appreciate having your voice at the State House and appreciate you taking the time to come and visit with us.
Well, thank you, Ed.
Anything else happening up there we need to know about?
Well, you know, we're going to have to start talking about when are we going to shut things down. We've got about 4 to 5 weeks scheduled in the 110 schedule. I'm hearing different opinions, different predictions as to when we're going to get out of there. I'll be there every day they need me there to help wrap things up.
When is the official last day of session?
It's May 2nd, I believe.
Okay.
Or May 3rd.
All right.
Yeah, somewhere along
you might
there.
go beyond that, you're thinking.
It's possible. But we've got a better shot this time to wrap up on day 110 than we did the last couple sessions.
All right. Well, best of luck, Dan.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank you, Ed.
so much for joining us. Folks, I want to thank Community CPA and Associates for sponsoring this segment of our show. It's tax time, and at 3816 Ingersoll Ave, you can get the help you need with your taxes. I just talked to a friend of mine today who was just starting to get them done now, and you may be in that category as well. It's, again, not too late to give Yingsa a call at 288-3188, 288-3188. Ying was on the show yesterday, and again, if you need help, she's the place to go to. Community CPA is now the 10th largest accounting firm in the state. Definitely worth the phone call. Again, check them out, 288-3188. I'll be back in a minute with Nakisha Phillips.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Community CPA is the 15th largest CPA firm in Iowa, providing audit, tax, and accounting services. Community CPA specializes in international tax treaty and double taxation avoidance among countries and states. 9 dedicated, experienced, hardworking staff are the company's foundation, and their compassion towards every client is the secret behind Community CPA's success. At Community CPA, you can expect quality service year-round. Call 288-3188. Community CPA, 38